Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 New York Latino Film Festival's digital conference, FUTURO. I am Eric K. Thomas, and I am the founder of The Quintessential Gentleman, which is a media platform that focuses on telling the positive stories of men of color. And I'm super, super excited to be hosting this panel right here. This is the digital social activism trending topic panel. And with everything going on in the world, we have to have a conversation. We're going to be talking about urban media's responsibility to its audience. We're going to be talking about debunking fake news. You know who I'm talking about, as well as the role of media to go ahead and share social injustice and push those type of topics. So we have the amazing panel that is full of media professionals that's going to help me dissect this topic. So joining me on this panel, we had the founder of Tequila White PR and publicist for the Creative Collective, Tequila White.
Hi.
We have editor of Bella Magazine, and that's Jonathan Calixto. Bella, what's going on? And then we have writer and contributor, Jessica Hape. Hope I said it right? Yep. No? Perfect.
Right.
I did. Got it.
Muted. Yes, you said it right.
Oh, good. Great. And then we also have media expert Trell Thomas. What's going on, Trell?
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. Awesome. So thank you guys for joining me virtually, of course. I don't know where you guys are, but I'm in New York and fall came out of nowhere like this. So it's freezing outside. You guys doing all right?
I was saying the same thing. It's freezing in one day, overnight.
Overnight. It's ridiculous. But again, thank you guys for joining us for this amazing conversation. And I just want to dive right in and I want to kick it off. But before we do that, I want everyone to go around the virtual room and tell us how do you get where you are right now and what it is that you do. And let's go ahead and start with Tequila.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Tequila, and I am a publicist and run my own full-service communications agency, TWPR, where we focus on social impact work. So that can be anything from nonprofit organizations, it can be an app, anything that is serving underserved communities is in my wheelhouse. And my work and capacity with the Creative Collective, which is a community-based organization that we host, different events throughout the year. And we have our marquee event, CultureCon, which happens every year. Well, not this year, unfortunately, but every year we get together and it's kind of just a culmination of all of our months throughout the year. And my capacity with Creative Collective is really helping to tell our story, work with media partners, brand partners, to be able to share the work that we're doing, have it reach more folks, and continue to do the good work. So yeah, I'm excited for today.
Awesome. And Jonathan.
Yeah, first off, thank you for having us. So I am a fashion and lifestyle correspondent for Bella Magazine. So I cover our women's trend, also our men's trend, and I also cover our LGBTQ plus articles. So anything that has to arrange with that topic, I also cover it as well for our print and digital issues. I also host our online digital shows, which is called Bella Make It Work. And it's been connecting with different creatives and entrepreneurs during this time of COVID to talk about how they've been navigating and adapting to this new normal as well. I am also a social media manager for a nonprofit organization that is working with first responders on the front lines of COVID-19. And lastly, I am also a micro influencer. So it's that New York City hustle.
So you got to be on that hustle. Trell.
Hi. First of all, Jonathan, I love that Lucky Bamboo in the background. I love it. I am. It's hard. It's always hard for me to answer this question. So I just tell people I do things that I love with people I love. I do things that I'm passionate about with people and causes that I'm passionate about. That work finds me a lot of times at the intersection of brands, charities, and celebrities. Bringing those worlds together to help elevate different campaigns or events or just different causes. I also am the creator and founder of a movement that is run through an event series called Black Excellence Brunch. And I'm the host of a series called Share Black Stories Live. And I'm just a creative. I am a creative who desires to make the world a better place.
And Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a writer. And so at the time, I came to writing a little later in life. I started out in fashion, and I've been developing my platform, Nueva Yorka, which started initially because I couldn't get published. I didn't have the pedigree. I didn't have the contacts. I was not subsidized. So I started my platform so I could just say what I wanted when I wanted. And that opened up a lot of doors for me. And since then, I've contributed to the New York Times, Paper Magazine, Yahoo, Pop Sugar, many others. Currently, I contribute to a platform called Sad Girls Club, which is a resource for BIPOC women and femmes to destigmatize mental health and to provide resources, which is something I'm so passionate about. I also contribute to the Lutz Collective, which is a Latina-powered platform. It's an online magazine. And so I did a profile of Miriam Gurba, who is one of the founders of Dignidad Literaria. And I'm going to write a piece on the New York Latino Film Festival, too.
Perfect. So, as you guys know, these people are qualified to speak on this topic. And I want us to really dive in. Don't hold no bars, guys. I want to hear what your opinions are. This conversation is so needed. And I think, everyone has a lot to say about it. So first thing first, activism. It's 2020. It's very different than how it used to be years ago. What does activism mean to you in the digital age? Trell, let's start with you.
I kind of felt that you were going to start with me. Activism in the digital age is, it's an interesting question for me to answer because a lot of people have called me an activist, but for me, it just I have a platform, and I considered it my responsibility to shed light on things, to just do everything that I can with my voice in all the ways that I can use my voice. I think that in this current day and age, social media, especially within this pandemic, right? Social media is just a way that an extension of our voice, right? And I think that to me, activism has kind of taken the role within the digital space of just extending our voice. Like if we can't say it face to face to a person, or we can't be someplace 3,000 miles away where injustice is happening, then using our platforms. And we've found that the internet is a very, very powerful place to do that.
So right. Tequila, your take?
I really think that accessibility is what's changing because people have so much more access to resources, to information. They're able to educate themselves on things that they may have never even known happened in history. They can connect the dots now. We can connect with people from different states, from different countries, from different continents. So we're able to just have more access. So I think that that's a good and bad thing because you also have access to a lot of the junk. But you have a lot of access to things that can help you to grow, help you to learn, help you to build community. So I think that when you're thinking about activism in kind of through the lens of digital, it's just about there's no reason anyone should say they don't know something because there's a plethora of resources out there to help educate. So I think that is something that's really great about being an activist in the digital world right now.
And Jonathan, Jessica, want to add?
Yeah, I specifically think too that especially with activism, it's not just speaking and sharing things that we're passionate about, but also creating the change that we want to see, right? And especially in the digital space, it's allowed a lot of us to create, whether it's digital shows, segments, post content that is to topics that we're passionate about. And I think that in the digital space specifically, that has become a base, right, for what we can do with our platforms that we all have. But it's also creating that space outside of the digital space, right? So it's also carrying that conversations that you're passionate about into your workplace, into the friend groups that you have. So I think activism has definitely evolved over the years.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. And I'll also add, as a writer, my most important tool for activism is the coverage, is my writing. So my platform is just a place for amplification. My platform is a place to give voice to the people who are actually on the ground really doing the work. I really take a cue from Toni Morrison, where she spoke about how she never marched. She was so instrumental to the movement. She created the Black Book. She worked very closely with Angela Davis. I really feel like movements are all about knowing where and when to step forward, when to be the support system, when to speak up, or when to know when it's time to take your baton and sprint forward with it, and when to amplify and support others. So that's what I really try and focus on, and my main modality is writing and giving voice to people who are not being acknowledged, because nobody is voiceless. So the first rule for writing, and I read that recently online, which is great, on No White Saviors, is to never think that you're going to be a voice for the voiceless. Nobody is voiceless. It's just that people aren't listening. So if you're passionate about something, find the people who are in that experience and the ones on the ground, and amplify that.
That's so true. I always say, everyone can't be marching. There's so many aspects to activism and showing support and being out there. Either you're making sure that they have water or giving water to people, making signs for people. Maybe you are donating to the causes and things like that. Is a variety of things that people can do. And I think people need to understand that and also be okay with that. Jessica, I'm gonna come back to you. I wanna know, do you think that minority-owned platforms have a social responsibility to their audience?
There's this really fabulous writer, Kylie Reed. She's a Black woman, and she wrote just a breakout debut called Such a Fun Age. And she recently tweeted, and it got a lot of attention. She said, "Just let Black art be Black art." And so for some creatives and some artists, I think that, the crisis of racial awareness gives us such a responsibility. Often from a young age, and it's really difficult. And to, break down and make sense of that for yourself is a really powerful experience, and it's ongoing. It's forever for me. And so sharing that has been something that people really identify with. And I wasn't intending for that to be activism. I was just like, wow, other people must be experiencing this, especially now, right? But I think to expect that because we're people of color, if we're Black, Indigenous, brown people, that we have a special responsibility, I think we really need to be taking very good care of ourselves and engaging with social media in a way that's healthy. And sometimes people cannot. I mean, today I got the most ridiculous comment on my post that initially was, hurtful. Of course, I'm used to it mostly, but Latino, brown people, we're not a monolith. We don't all agree. And so I can't speak for Latinos. I can't speak for anybody but myself. Honest, I do kind of judge people who are not saying anything. So I'm like, are you living? Like, don't you care? But that's mostly white platforms. I'm like, get to work. You're not absolved. You're in this. But I don't look at any platform and think, oh, you better be doing this. I think we're doing our best. And if you're in this, I want to support you. I'm in it because this is who I am. I can't sleep. I can't think of anything else sometimes. And when it feels right to me, when I feel very passionate about it, I share. But I am more careful about it. I'm mostly amplifying.
Perfect. And Trell, I mean, as someone who works with, other platforms and various media outlets and things like that, do you believe that there is a social responsibility to their audience that they serve?
I think that, I agree with a lot of the things that Jessica said. I think that, I never like to put myself in a position where I'm telling people what to do. I feel like if you have an audience that cares about the issues, then I think that it's your responsibility to give them things that they care about and to help them navigate that. If not, then I don't know what really the point is. But like I say like this. I think that I've been trying to just be less judgmental in everything that I do, right? And be the change that I want to see, like Jonathan mentioned. So it's for me, I'm just like, okay, this is what I care about. I'm gonna put this out, and like my audience draw to that, and I would hope that people are doing the same thing, because one thing that we are not in a position to do, anybody, like outlet or not, is be quiet during this time and say nothing and do nothing. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Anybody else want to add in there?
I just wanted to say I agree with what everyone's saying, and I think sometimes as a minority-owned business or platform, there's already a responsibility that comes with just the color of our skin and the communities that we represent, right? Sometimes. So I do think that there is a sense of a minority-owned business or platform has to understand that, and that's a lot of research for them in themselves, because they have to know what they're getting themselves into, right? But I think the minute that they can understand that and embrace that, I think that then the social responsibility comes very natural, right? Because they already know the community that they are connecting with. So I think that there is a sense of understanding that they have to do, for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I target the question specific for minority-owned platforms, but you have platforms that speak to minorities that are not owned by minorities. So sometimes those waves get a little crossed, those wires get crossed, because they can't really target and speak to them. They miss it a lot of the times, and then you have the minorities who are the audience who are like, well, why are you guys not speaking on that? And that's because the people who are pulling the strings, the people who are actually, cutting the checks and things of that nature, they miss it, Perfect. Now to move on, Tequila, this one is for you. I want to know, we talk about social responsibility, and all of us, having minority owned platforms and doing things for the culture and for our audience. What steps have you been taking to kind of own your responsibility to the cause and, creating that community you speak of?
I think that when it comes to my role, I'm a storyteller. So I work with my clients, I work with my team, I work with my creative collective team. Anything that I do comes from a place of purpose. That's really my why and my driving force. So in terms of responsibility, I think it's kind of two things. One, I have the responsibility to educate folks, to make them aware of platforms, resources, things like that. But then I have also a responsibility to act. That can come in many different ways, whether it's signing a petition, donating money, marching for something, protesting for something, working with brands to have a campaign to highlight a specific, issue or topic that's important to me or important to people who look like me. So when I think through my responsibility and how I'm kind of activating that, it's through storytelling. It's through, just working with brands to make sure that all of our stories are told, because we're not a monolith. So I want to make sure that everyone feels seen, represented, heard, affirmed. Excuse me. And I feel like doing that through storytelling is the easiest way to get it to folks, because they receive the message without even realizing they're getting a message, because they're just so engaged with the story of it all and kind of just pulling it all together. So I feel like that kind of little trick helps me to kind of just keep pushing forward, and continue to fight for us all to be able to have a space, to feel affirmed, to feel safe, to feel heard. So that's just how I think about it.
And Jessica, want to hop in? Tell us how you're definitely taking your own responsibility.
Oh yeah. I think it was handed to me from a pretty young age. I had a lot of explaining to do about who I was, and that really it got me on a pretty complicated course. But I think that it led me to understanding that I wasn't alone in that experience, and that was the thing that helped. And so, as Tequila said, like, I think that there's such a power in identification. Sometimes if we are too, or I'll speak for myself, I think I've been in places where I've remained in my pain, and I've suffered with it, and then I've sort of handed it out, like, you know, this is the way. I'm not really making sense, but I've stayed too much in a victim mindset for me. So service is really a way for me to get out of that and be in a community. Now, I'll speak for the Latinx community. It's pretty lit right now. I'm not sure where I fit in at the moment, and a lot of things are changing. And the whole idea is that it's very, very nuanced. Nothing is all good or all bad. So I think that if we allow people to change, I have had many iterations of my process, and I always speak to that. I'm very authentic, and I'm very open about where I am in the moment. And if I make a mistake, I think sometimes that can be the greatest example that I can set, or like, okay, I made a mistake, or I was misinformed, or I feel this way now. You know, at this point in my life, I was really attached to this label Latina. I really needed something to be. I'm moving on from this, and this is why. And that's where I use my writing. You know, and then I get on social, like I said, to amplify. But the real work is in the storytelling, as Tequila said. And I really allow the audience to take what they need from that. And I allow my own personal growth to shine.
Perfect. Jonathan, Trell, you want to let us know about your either one of you guys' responsibilities?
Yeah, I was gonna just say, I think to a lot of the times the responsibility that I've taken, and I think I acknowledge, is behind the scenes, right? So I think a lot of times when you will go to my digital platforms or my social media pages, you'll see, right, that I was able to start a digital series that was called Inspire Your Inner Boss, to talk with communities about self-care and personal growth, because I felt that a lot of times in our Black and Latinx communities, we don't talk about the importance of those things, right? Or especially within men in those communities, we don't talk about those focuses. Then my work in the magazine that I'm with, Bella Magazine, I was able to put out articles for talking about the LGBTQ plus community, and now it's become a staple thing that we're going to have moving forward. So those were kind of the apparent things that you can see on the surface when you look at my portfolio, in a sense, right, and the responsibility that I've done. But I also take it upon myself behind the scenes. And what I mean by that is that when brands want to come on to collaborate, that I make sure that it's not a one-off opportunity, that you're just trying to check the quota, right, that they work with a Latino gay influencer. But it's that we can have the conversation that, how are you also helping my community? Are you going to give, like, can you do a pledge where you're going to give X amount of money to X organization because you are working with me and that's the community that I represent? And how do we make this a long-lasting partnerships? And I think those are the conversations of the responsibility behind the scenes that a lot of times we don't get to see as audiences or even as creatives. But I love to be involved in those conversations to really change the aspect.
Perfect. And Trell?
Yeah, I think about my responsibility, and I'll speak specifically about Black Excellence Brunch. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And for me, it was just filling spaces where things that I thought that were missing, even for myself. And Jessica, I love that you shared that. Thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent about your journey and your story. For me, oftentimes, like, I grew up in South Carolina. My grandmother was a sharecropper, so like one removed from a slave, right? And my mentality was always to play small as a Black man. It was like, be smaller than you are. Even though you're smart, even though you're creative, even though you're talented, be small. And I just got tired of doing that. I got tired of doing that. I didn't think that I had to. And I wanted to. And once I was liberated, I thought it was my responsibility to help liberate everybody who might feel that way. So I started Black Excellence Brunch to do just that, to create this safe, uplifting, positive space where Black people can just come and love on each other and share and be in all of our authenticity. We don't have to be small. We don't have to pretend to be something else. We don't have to code switch, right? And in that, just enjoy what is the beauty of us. And so for me, my responsibility is creating things that I, as a person from my community, felt like I needed or I didn't have. And like I said, anytime that I'm liberated, that I'm free, that my mind is free, that my spirit, that my soul, that my body is free, I take it as my responsibility to then free other people.
And you touched on something important, and that's authenticity. And I want to dive deeper into that. How can you remain authentic when it seems that in 2020 or now in this digital age, people, big brands or big dollars are being spent to create this particular life that people want to see, or you got the money, or you got the cars, you got X, Y, and Z. Media plays a heavy role in propelling those type of stories that aren't always true or factual. They're a lot of times made up. So I wonder, going back to you, Trell, is that authenticity. How are you able to keep that when you may lose out on a check, or you may lose out on an opportunity because you're not really able to produce what people may think you should do? You understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying. And I'm going to preface this with, like, this is me, right? And I'm going to speak from Trell. This is not a one size fits all type. But Eric, I became very okay with walking away from anything that made me feel uneasy. And that took time, right? If I got a feeling like, I don't know, I became okay with walking away from that. And, as a result, I walked away from money. I walked away from opportunities. I love that Jonathan shared that, when big brands come, it's like, okay, well, what do you really want to do? Are you just trying to check a box? And there have been times where I've had to walk away because I felt like brands were trying to check a box, or that they weren't being authentic, or they just didn't align. So, I always tell people like this: I can't get what's for Trell trying to be Eric or Jessica or Tequila or Jonathan. And I think that you have to be yourself, because we are all on our own path, running our own race, doing our own thing, and the world needs exactly what I bring as Trell Thomas. And the only way that I can fulfill my destiny, my calling, is by walking in the trail of it all, right? And that comes with removing labels, that comes with setting boundaries, that comes with knowing your worth. It comes with a number of things. But I'm telling you, when you do that, your life takes it just takes off, because it's you.
Tequila, I'm tossing it back to you. The Creative Collective was built off of a particular audience. And it seems that you guys definitely are excelling at creating this audience and just letting people find you. Whoever you guys, you attract them. You're not searching for them. You're not looking for them. You're not, hey, come here. You are who you are. You are authentic, and people are coming towards you. How are you guys? Because you guys have had some major partnerships and continue to work with big brands. How do you guys remain that way? How do you, your work with them, how do you stay authentic?
I think that what helps is we might grow in terms of size, but it always feels the same. So whether we are doing a super small event with maybe a Squarespace, or we're doing something more communal around mental health, that is the same exact feeling that you're going to get when you come into CultureCon and there's 2,000-3,000 folks there, because it's the programming, it's everything down to the vendors that we work with, it's everything down to a marketplace that we got to make sure that we have our folk out there selling their brands, and getting that visibility alongside a Target or alongside a Facebook. I think that what has helped us to grow and to be able to scale the way we've been able to scale is that we've been consistent. We've been consistent with our offerings for programming. We've been consistent with the voice in which we speak. We've been consistent with our storytelling. So, if you look at any coverage around the collective, around CultureCon, around any of the members of our team, we're saying a lot of the same things, because we really feel this way and we really feel strongly about how we're impacting our community, how we're providing for them, how we're giving them resources, how we're connecting them, how we're educating them, how we're giving them tools. And it's really about keeping the same energy throughout, because that integrity is going to be what gets you a lot further than doing things for like a quick look or a quick bag. Because people who have been here from the beginning, they can literally say, like, I remember the very first event. I remember first going in 2018 and 2017, and I feel the same exact way when I walk into CultureCon. So I think it's really just about knowing who you're speaking to, being consistent with that messaging, and always coming from a place of purpose and coming from a place of trying to force the community and pour into them, and they'll pour right back into you. And we've been so blessed to be able to scale and grow the way that we have.
And Jonathan, on remaining authentic, what's your tips?
Yeah, I first want to say Tequila and Trell definitely hit it on the mark too, of how they remain authentic. And I think for me too, it was first the journey of understanding my responsibility and the communities that I do represent. And within that search, I was able to understand kind of what is my mission, right? And from there also understand why I started the things that I've started in my career so far. And so how I remain authentic is, if I see something that doesn't fit my community or that I think needs to be shed light on, I create it, whether that is creating a series or writing an article or doing a segment on it. And I encourage people to take that. Like, the minute you understand your voice and the power of it, if you see something that doesn't cater to your community, you have the power to create it. We have social media now, which is so easy and so accessible to do it. And I think with the sense of like big brands, I go back to just making sure that you know what you stand for, so that when a collaboration does come through, like it was mentioned before, that you know that it isn't just meeting a quota, but that they actually want to stand and represent for the communities that you also engage with. And I think doing that and remaining authentic to your voice just helps these brands also understand that it isn't easy to just go to any influencer and they'll take the opportunity. It makes them be more aware when they're having these conversations, that they know that, wow, we really want to work with this community, or we really want to be about the change, and it's not just a one-off.
Right. And Jessica, want to add anything?
Well, my entire platform is based on being authentic. Like, I can't help it. I mean, I will probably cry during this. Like, it's just who I am. I think the pressure of having a commercial component where you're satisfying the needs of a client, that's really tough. There's a lot of pressure there. As a writer, it's different. I certainly have people that I answer to, but not in the same way as something where, like, I would be doing sponsored content on Nueva York, which I don't really do. But I do remember, like, when I worked in the fashion industry in particular, that people were very identified with what they did. And I think that people have become very identified with who they are online. And I think because when I first started Nueva York, it was really popping off and it was killing it, and I was getting such a high from it. And when I stepped away from it to take care of myself and my life, I'm reintroducing it in a way where I want to engage with it thoughtfully. And I want to be patient with myself, and also not be so like navel gazing, and not be using it as a tool to communicate something about myself. I want to be about something without centering my story all the time, which is very hard because I'm a nonfiction writer. So that's great when I get to profile other people and profile their movements and things like that. But yeah, I'm always listening. Listening is very helpful. And I do always remember I used to go, I don't know who's into her, and I used to love to hear Miriam Williamson speak. She used to speak in the Flatiron District twice a month. And there was this moment in my life where I was just really, what she was saying was very resonant with me. And I went to listen to her, and someone essentially stood up and was like, how do I be you? How do I become you? And she was like, wrong question. But what she basically said to her was, you have it all wrong, because no movement ever started with a ton of people being like, yes, that's it. A movement is usually like a few people that everybody calls crazy, and slowly but surely it sort of spreads, and it widens and it broadens out, and the people who can hear it. And sometimes that takes time. And what she said was more, it's not about focusing on how widely you can reach people, it's how deeply you can reach people. And I'll never forget that instantly became like my motto, something I always think about, because most of the action on my page lately happens in the DMs, because I'm usually talking about stuff that's like deeply personal and people don't want to be like commenting on it. But I really appreciate those moments, and that's when I know.
Awesome. So we speak about authenticity, and how important it is for media brands to remain that way. But there's a lot of success, or I won't call success, but there's a lot of attention and a lot of money in negativity. And especially in our world, in the media, negative things are not new to us. Tabloids have been out for forever. They always, on when you go into the shopping market, the store, you see them. This person's married to this one, or this one's having a baby. But in 2020, it is like amplified. You had to go to the market. You had to see them in those particular places. All that negativity is now on your phone, and now it's shared. It runs so quickly. With the rise of gossip blogs and those type of websites, what do you think is the impact of that portrayal, or that negative portrayal, on the urban culture, Black and Hispanics? I'm leaving it open. I want everyone to speak on this. So whoever wants to start, please.
I'll take a crack at it then. Yeah, I think specifically with gossip blogs, it's difficult, right? And I think the reason that it's not good and this negative thing is catching traction is that what they do is they focus on stereotypes and they emphasize misconceptions of communities, right? And the problem with that is that they reach a very surface level, and they don't take the time to do their journalism work and dig deep into the voices that they're trying to highlight. And what I mean by trying is that they speak out of context, and sometimes they make assumptions, right? And I think that's a whole community in itself that has been able to thrive on just putting fake headlines out there and making those kind of running with that. So I think it's not a prosperous community, and I think it's our responsibility that the minute that we do see those things, that we do speak up about it, and that we are able to kind of debunk that, and that we are able to kind of, our responsibility, especially mine as a journalist, is to give light to the voices that are silenced, I say, right? And by that, I mean is that when these gossip blogs run, it's to be able to put out an article side by side that actually tells the truth or digs deep into the voices that they're just quickly just throwing out there just for the revenue, right? So I think that's what would be my take on that.
That piece right there is so good, like how you can combat it, and it goes, this kind of blends into the spread of misinformation and fake news, and I definitely think as urban media, we really have to focus on correcting those negative conversations that are being had, not necessarily forcing people, you should pick this person or you should do this, but I think there should, put some facts, do some fact checking. And I don't think that our platforms, urban media does enough of that. Anybody else want to put a crack on that or have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, the internet is essentially, it's propped up on it's a profit model. It's for profit. So the more we engage with it, the more we're providing the data for, the people who are controlling it to understand us better, to control us more. And the fact is, we're so overstimulated. We're just like bombarded with information constantly. And it's like an addiction, and that gets satiated. It doesn't get satiated. It's just sort of like, it's a momentary satisfaction, right? And then you need more and more and more. And that's what keeps you scrolling. The thing is, like, when I see things on a, quote, urban gossip platform, it's no different than what's on the other platforms. It just is communicated differently. But we're all talking about the same thing, right? We're all talking about cheating. We're all talking about, dysfunction and pain and trauma and just the ways that it has manifested itself in different communities. So sure, it looks a little different, but we're all doing the same thing. I think that it just becomes a tool, to say, yes, these, quote, people are this way, and so on and so forth. Hip hop culture is X, this is not, WAP is not female empowerment. It's this. But then those conversations are nuanced. I see a lot of scholars. I see a lot of doctors. I see a lot of just women, people. I have no master's degree. I have a BA in criminal justice, really randomly. But I can read and I can educate myself on a lot of different perspectives. And there's a lot of great information just as much as there is crap. The problem is I can get it at any moment. Unlike before, I used to be reading it like in a glossy Us Weekly magazine because I'm older. But yeah, nothing that's going on in the urban platforms is any different than a white-dominated platform. It just looks different. So there shouldn't be a reason that is used to portray people negatively. That is just a tool of white supremacy. But yeah, we should not be so eager to put each other on pedestals, and because the moment we do, we're so eager to tear each other down. We love like this the bootstrapping story, but then we're just so ready for that person to fall off. I don't know where our curiosities really are, but I do think that if we were more thoughtful about ourselves in our interior lives, we wouldn't be so eager or needing, these quick hits. But it is a very interesting question. I liked that one.
Trell, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to know what's your thoughts on clickbait and the oversaturation of just really this negative news.
Yeah, Jessica, I love what you said about just not giving it your energy. I remember when I used to follow all of those blogs, right? I used to be like, oh, what's going on? And there came a point in my life where I realized that not only the conversations that I was having, the people that I was having in my circle, but also just the things that were on my timeline they were having an effect on me. So I just went and did a mass unfollow of all of these blogs and just was like, you know what, I don't want to pour that into my spirit. And I think that we have to do that so that we're not feeding the beast, right? Because if we're following them, if we're liking, if we're engaging, if we're sharing it, we're just giving it more gas, more energy, right? So that's the first thing that I'll say about it. And then the second thing, to Jonathan's point, is that the reason why I created Share Black Stories Live was literally because of that. Like, even though I wasn't following these, I couldn't escape like my friends sharing them on their story, or people sending it to me randomly. Hey, did you see this? And for me, I was like, okay, if I can't escape it, I can create a balance to it. And for everything that I saw, I'm like, every week I am going to talk to someone and I'm going to share positive Black stories with people. I'm going to share great things about us. I'm going to share the things that I'm not seeing on the Shade Room and Hollywood Unlocked and Baller Alert. I'm going to share those things. And so for me, it was just the combo of those two things. And that's still what I think about it. You know what I mean? I am not of the mind, if you can't beat them, join them. That is not me. I'm of the mind of, okay, well, if they're going to continue to do this and put out this, then I got to find ways to put out the truth as I see it. And that's what I would say about it.
Definitely understand. Tequila, your thoughts?
I mean, I really feel like you guys basically said it all. It's really about combating the negative with the positive. But I also agree with you, Trell. It's really like a diet. If you're going to eat junk all the time, you're going to be sick. You're going to get sick all the time. You're going to have issues. You're going to have health issues. Like, what you pour into yourself is what you're going to get out. So if you keep consuming all of this draining, negative energy, news, showing it to other people, even if you're not thinking that you're sharing it in a way to spread it, you're sharing it for awareness, that energy is still traveling. So as opposed to doing that, take that negative and say, okay, what can I do to kind of offset that? If this is a stereotype they're trying to perpetuate around the way that we love each other, the way that we are, have our families, what can I show to say, hey, look at this beautiful family, or look at this new way of family, or new look to what family is. I think that it's really about your diet and what you consume, because that completely controls your energy and your mind state. So if you wake up and the first thing you do is go to Instagram, go to Twitter, you're already starting your day off wrong, because that's the first thing you're pouring into yourself. So that's like waking up in the morning and it's like, okay, let me just go eat a bunch of cookies. You're not going to feel good throughout the day. You're going to feel sluggish. You're not going to be energized. So I think that you have to really be cognizant of what you're pouring into yourself and what you're putting out, because that energy transmits and people will associate you with that energy. So if they know that you're always positive, you're bringing positive light to things, you're spreading positive stories, they're going to know, okay, I can go to them for positivity. But if they constantly are seeing you resharing these things that are traumatic or painful or draining, they're going to be like, okay, that's their energy, that's their vibe. And that translates right over to the media, for sure, for me.
I love that analogy. Your diet. It's like your diet. If you consume it, then of course you see what's going to happen in the breakdown. So that was amazing, guys. You guys definitely hit that nail on the head. In terms of sharing, you have negative things that, if shared enough, create a positive outcome. And I'm speaking about the Black Lives Matter movement and those type of social injustices where, we're in 2020, where now, Black men have been being brutalized by police forever. It's only different now because I have a phone that I can videotape it and I can now put it on social media. And now it can, it goes viral. It's widespread. But what I'm interested in knowing is, what is everyone's thoughts on the responsibility for the media as it pertains to these social injustices, the Colin Kaepernicks, situations, the George Floyd's, all of the various components to the movement. And I really like to call it a revolution, because to me, I've never seen or read the amount of people and the different type of people who are now marching, speaking out, doing certain type of things. So I really would like to know you guys' thoughts on that. And Tequila, I'm gonna kick it back to you.
Yeah. Well, before I answer the question, I definitely want to put out, it's not just Black men that's been slaughtered. It's been Black women. It's been trans women. It's anyone that looks like us. They've been killing us forever. So I wanted to start with that and say that in terms of responsibility, I think it goes to ownership. So if you're working for an organization that is predominantly white but speaks to people of color or Black people, you're going to have a disconnect there, because the things that are important to you might not be important to them in terms of their bottom line. They might be thinking about ads. They might be thinking about things that are completely outside of the scope of what you feel like should be told. So when you have something like A Quintessential Gentleman, when you have something that is owned by us, we can speak to these issues in a way that we won't be limited, we won't be silenced, it won't feel performative. But if we are constantly looking for the grand prize of being hired by these organizations, then of course when things happen, we're going to be frustrated when we're not seeing it shown the way we want it to be shown, or when they're not speaking to us in a way that we feel like we want to be spoken to. So it really goes back to ownership for me, which is what the amazing thing about social media is, because we all have ownership over our platforms. So we have our own responsibilities that we can share messages and we can educate folk. But when it comes to the media, it's really about ownership, because if you're not able to tell the story in a way that is transparent and that tells all sides of the story, then there's really no point in telling the story. So then that goes back into the responsibility, because at the end of the day, honestly, I wouldn't look for certain outlets to say certain things, because to me, I know that that's not their responsibility in their mind. That's not something they care about. That's not something that's going to make them money. That's not something that they're going to go home and talk about around their dinner table. So I don't look to it from them. But when you own your platforms, you're able to speak to things in a way that is a lot more impactful and a lot less performative.
For sure, for sure. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize Tequila's point was right on the mark too. And I love this question because I've been having this kind of conversations with a lot of my friends who are also in the industries, from TV correspondents, stylists who do styling for like TV shows, or even like radio personalities. And I think the biggest thing that we all spoke about this topic was that understanding that a lot of our platforms or industries weren't designed to talk about social injustices, right? Like someone might come to like a TV show specifically for entertainment news, and therefore it might not correlate with the theme, or they can't highlight it, right? And at the end of the day, like we all have bosses that and a hierarchy that works and kind of pushes out the media. So although they weren't designed for these kind of topics, it was understanding that we have the responsibility to also adapt our work to try to convey these messages, right? So a lot of my friends who are like stylists on TV shows, what they'll do is they'll style a lot of their talent on screen with Black-owned businesses like fashion brands or Latinx fashion brands, right? And it's those small ways of making the point and starting the conversation, right? And then again, for radio people, like it's been about playing snippets of voices of artists who are conveying and talking about these social injustices, right? So I think it's also understanding how to be clever with our platforms, so that although it may not have been catered to be for that market or to talk about these political issues, that we can still get the message across however we can and be smart about it.
So true, so true. And what's so interesting? Oh, Jessica, you were gonna hop in?
I was just going to say, as a writer, I understand the importance of a headline, right? And that be a big focus for an editor. And I remember at the beginning of the George Floyd protest, there was one down south, and the headline went so viral that it was a line of white bodies had protected the Black Lives Matter protesters. You know, white bodies were protecting Black people. And it was just such a kumbaya moment. And I was like, something about that. And I remember like investigating it more and finding the Black Lives Matter leader in that area. And really it was she, a Black woman, who told all of the white people to get to the front, that if they were going to be there, they were going to be of service, and this is how they could do it. She directed them. And the story was that these white people had taken upon themselves to do this. And this is a method of the Black Lives Matter movement. And even thinking about the Black Lives Matter movement, recently, a few weeks ago, the New York Times published that it is very likely the biggest movement in U.S. history. And even just a few years ago, it was considered completely fringe. So that's why representation matters. And so one of the things that I do, like when the riots happened in my area, I remember waking up to so many text messages from a bunch of women who were like, oh my God, the state of Soho, oh my God. And I was like, what? I took a walk around my neighborhood. I posted a video about what I saw as factually true. and I just clarified, but it really became like a hands-on, like lived experience about the way things are portrayed and what's actually happening in real life. You know, we're so detached from like IRL. You know, it's like it's an acronym, but it's like your actual lived life. And so anytime I can sort of point these things out, guess what? A Black woman actually did this. And this movement, you know, has been active and working on the ground forever. It's just that we have the time now, and we're in a pandemic, and everyone is suffering, and we're understanding how connected we really are, and how much we really need to be in community with one another. It's no longer sustainable to be individualistic. So, yeah, I love to clarify those stories, and whether it's personally or on my platform or writing another story for anyone who I pitch it to. But that's why representation matters, because we all have different perspectives. You know, if a white writer is seeing that, oh, doesn't that look beautiful and glorious? But the actual true story is something very different, and we should give credit and we should tell the truth.
For sure. And Trell, I'm coming to you with this one. You know, Jessica spoke about using her platform, you know, being an entity and speaking out about those type of things. And celebrities have kind of been put under fire for not speaking out. And there's been a lot of back and forth about those type of things. And then we started to hear I'll probably say it probably dealt with like R. Kelly really started, but this cancel culture. And I'm very interested to know what everyone thinks about cancel culture. Maybe not the extreme case of R. Kelly, but just canceling people because they're not speaking out about you know, social injustice and things like that, or they have a lyric to a song or something of that nature. Trell, what are your thoughts on cancel culture? Do you agree with it? Think it's okay, or what?
Oh, man. I think that at the end of the day, we're all people, right? And there are so many. It's a spectrum with cancel culture. Like R. Kelly, do I think that he should have been canceled? As Trell Thomas, absolutely. If he did those things, he should definitely be canceled. Like, but there are situations also where people, you know, say or they do things if somebody does something at 15 and they're 27 years old, and you dig up a tweet or something that they said when they were, my mind, I'm not the same person that I was 3 months ago. So, I think that we have to be careful. And I am just a type of person that, like, I don't think that it's my job to judge anybody, to tell anybody what's right or wrong for them. Now, can they be in my circle? Can they do the things that I do? Can I align myself with them? If they don't, if their values and my values are in line, probably not, you know. But it's not on me to say, like, I don't ever want to see your face in this town again. You know what I mean? So it's just it's hard to say, and I think there's a spectrum, but I feel like we should just remember that everybody's human. And that people, just like you go through different emotions, just like you go through different phases in life, just like you learn and grow, people do as well. And a lot of times it's a teachable moment, right? You know, and I spoke earlier about liberation and like being liberated, and then my responsibility to liberate others. Like I can't hold you accountable for where I am in my liberated life or in my learnings if you're not there yet. But what I can do is I can teach you. Now, if you choose to say, like, no, I'm not doing that, or no, that's wrong, or no, like, you're whatever you choose to say, then I can say, all right, well, I'm going to walk away from that, or I'm going to stay there. But I just think it's a very delicate dance. And don't
definitely,
because
no, I get it. And I actually think that Jessica spoke a little bit about this when she said, I may have written something, and then in a year or a couple months, I've learned, I've grown, and now I don't feel that way anymore. And I think we don't give people, especially in our community and the people, either the audience as well as the influencer or the person that is, you know, the celebrity or whatever, we don't give them a chance to grow or to learn. We think because they have X amount of money or they have X amount of status or whatever, that they are now, you know, you can't do anything with them. They whatever they say, it goes, you know. But
can I say this too, Eric, really, really quickly, because I know that we're about at time. It is we like a lot of times, especially Black and brown people, there is an operating from a place of trauma, right? There is trauma that we have that we inherited. That is like not even in our own lives. There's cellular trauma, right? And so we have to remember to give people grace, you know, because there are things that you might be dealing with, Eric, Jessica, Tequila, Jonathan, that you don't even know how to begin to unravel. You know what I mean? And sometimes that comes out in the way we act, in the way we think, and the things that we say. So we also have to just remember that everybody's on a journey, you know? So I'll say that. I just wanted to say that.
Perfect. And that is exactly a great note to end on. You know, we could talk forever, but we have to go. Thank you guys, Tequila, Jonathan, Trell, Jessica. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to this conversation. I'm so happy that I was able to host this and have this dialogue with you guys. A special thank you again to New York Latino Film Festival. Amazing. Our sponsors, HBO, Google, YouTube, have been amazing. New York Latino Film Festival is still going on. You can still get tickets tonight, tomorrow. Make sure you tune in, get it taken care of, and head out there. Guys, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.